Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. As always, my name is Jay, and in this video I want to talk about the new Space Marine Codex, out for pre-order at the moment. I was able to get a couple games in on the weekend, and I tried out two of the different attachments with Dark Angels. I used my Dark Angel army and tried them out because it was really fun to add some flavor to these detachments, and I just wanted to give my thoughts. Again, it's kind of a pseudo commentary on the Codex. I had fun. Both games were fun. I won one game, lost a game. Both games were very close. Yeah, it was good. It was good. I found it to be interesting. I think the new Codex is good overall. I think it's fun. It has a lot of variation. Of course, it's Space Marines, right? So there's tons of different options you can take in the Codex. There are now, six different detachments, which is awesome. Each one has a theme. This is overall, I had a great time. I like the Codex. I will definitely be playing Dark Angels and Space Marines going forward. I still am going to be playing Dark Angels in this Codex, in this edition, over Imperial Fists, because, to be honest, I don't see any reason not to. With Imperial Fists, you get Lysander, but you sacrifice Lysander, then you get access to Samael, Azrael, Belial, Lion. Worth the sacrifice. So what I did was, for these two games, I tried to do two different detachments because and two different styles of play, because I just wanted to try it out. It was fun. And then I kind of came up with a list for the third detachment, but we just didn't have enough time to play. But so I played two different detachments. So the first one I really actually wanted to try was Anvil Siege Force. I like it. Because to me it kind of plays like the Dark Angels played in previous editions of the game. The Dark Angels special rule was basically +1 to hit if you didn't move for one of the editions. So it's pretty much that. Let me start off with my overall thoughts, of course, on the change to Oath of the Moment. What we have to address that was the army-wide rule, and I did make a video about this saying that they fixed it, and yeah, they did. Oath of the Moment is nowhere near as strong as it was before. No, it did not. No, it's nowhere near as strong. The reason being is, of course, Space Marines can hit. They can hit what they're shooting at. Most times they're hitting on 3s. With Anvil Siege Force, if you don't move, you're hitting on 2s. So that's awesome, right? You're hitting on 2s. You're hitting most shots. So reroll the hits, yeah. You know what? You're going to be rerolling a couple dice. The problem is, in this edition, it's hard to wound. It's very hard to wound, very easy to hit, hard to wound. So I wasn't wounding very much. And of course, I'll be going over the Anvil Siege Force in a moment, which did mitigate that a little bit, which, as I said, but it was really like, okay, in the previous editions, the previous games that I've been playing, you point and click, one model or unit per turn is gone, right? With Oath of the Moment, you could not annihilate one unit effectively a turn, and what I would do is I would knock it out usually within one or two squads. It was very efficient. And I found in this edition, with the new rules, it was nowhere near as efficient. So obviously, more strategy. I understand why it was nerfed, because it was a very powerful rule. It just hurt my heart a little bit, because to me, I don't think the Space Marines were ever a top tier army in this edition yet. Eldar, Gene Steel Cult, Imperial Knights were walking all over them. It was one of the ways that they could put up a huge fight in the competitive meta, was at least one unit per turn you could say bye-bye to. And that is gone. The rerolls to hits were good. I had one or two turns in one of my games that the Oath of the Moment unit survived the turn. Didn't even die. So usually I would knock out like 1 or 2 rounds of shooting just between two different squads. A Devastator squad or an Eradicator squad, a Hellblaster squad, would just gone. I had several turns where I was concerned that it wasn't going to die. And I had several turns where it didn't die. And I had to go to the next one. And I just kept the same unit as Oath of the Moment did. Or I had to kill an assault a couple times. It was just like, or one time I had to kill an assault. So it definitely doesn't make things as point and click and straightforward, which is okay, right? Obviously, it was a very important rule to the Space Marines, very arguably one of the most powerful army-wide rules in the game. It has been mitigated. Now, once again, there are ways to bring yourselves back up, and I actually tried 2 detachments over the weekend that actually help mitigate that. Number 1, I really wanted to try the Anvil Siege Force, as I mentioned earlier. To me, it plays like a Dark Angel themed list. I really like. I know it's the Imperial Fist that themed detachment, but I loved Imperial Fist as well. So I ran a gun line for it, a very static gun line. I had 2 squads of Eradicators. I had a Devastator squad with las cannons. I had Hellblasters. I had a Desolation squad. I had a couple bikes just to add some spice. I tried some Outriders at the same time, just to, get into where I needed to go, because I knew I would have very limited mobility. And for that game, luckily, I was playing against a very aggressive opponent who was playing, their army was very assaulty and wanted to get close to me. So turn 1, I think about half my army moved up. About half of my army moved up to where I wanted to be. And then some of my army stayed back. Obviously, the longer range guys stayed back. And then once my guys got into where they needed to be, from then on, I didn't move very much. And I really took advantage of these rules. And one, of course, the rules is everything's now heavy. So if you remain stationary, it is +1 to hit, right? Because all your weapons are heavy. And furthermore, if your weapons are already heavy and you remain stationary, it's +1 to wound. This was actually where I was helping to mitigate the nerf to Oath of the Moment, because I was firing some las cannons, which are strength 12. Most things they needed 3s, which then became 2s. Some things needed 4s, they became 3s. 5s became 4s. It helped make my shooting more effective. And they do have a stratagem that allows you to reroll against a monster or a vehicle. And I used that once in the game, and I popped a vehicle with it. And what I intentionally did was I Oath of the Moment as a different unit, and then I fired my las cannons at that. And it was cool. So very cool. Once again, it helps mitigate it, right? The Melta rifles from Eradicators are awesome, right? They're pretty fun. I connected a Apothecary Biologist with it. Cool. Helps mitigate. Once again, not as perfectly effective, right? Because, 5's reroll is a 55% success rate versus 5's +1 is 4, so 50% success rate. But still, help mitigate it, right? So that was a fun game. I ended up winning that game by the skin of my teeth. I played the objectives. I didn't play... sometimes I just, I had to move my guys. But of course, it rewards you for being stationary, and that's the key. So I recommend if you're playing this army, you want to get them to where they want to be quickly, and that way from then on they can just shoot. And if you have a strong, front line, then the back line can remain stationary and fire. But it was a great game. I loved it. As I said, I found that particular stratagem really cool. There was another stratagem, I think there was an enhancement that made them ignore cover. I didn't use that one. Yeah, as I said, but it was fun. Great game. I really liked it. I found it fun. Like, as I said, I found it to be a balanced game. What was the other one? There was one called Battle Drill Recall, which gave sustained hits 1, which was cool. I tried that one. 2, and gives critical hits on 5s. So that was good. I got a bunch of extra shots. I used that on a Hellblaster squad, and it was pretty fun. So that was pretty cool. They're always fun. I always like to supercharge my Hellblasters and just them kill each other, kill stuff, they kill themselves, and then they fire again. Always fun stuff. Always fun stuff. But I loved it. I really liked it. I'm going to try that one again. Actually, I really like that one overall. I really like the static gunline feel, but to me it feels like Dark Angels of the past. My Imperial Fist as well. Makes sense. It was great. I thought that one was really fun. The second game, I tried the, what was it called? The Elite one. The First Company Task Force. First Company Task Force. I ended up losing that game. It was very close once again. I think I lost by 5 or 6 points. I just got unlucky with my secondaries. Really, I could never score them in a couple rounds. I got, I didn't score three cards in a row, basically. But it was really fun. So that army, I really focused on my Terminators, my Deathwing, my Terminators, my Stern Guard. I haven't played them really on the table yet. I had the Elite, and it was a good game, right? The one thing I found with this particular one was the detachment rule for this one is you get rerolls to wound 1 time, right? You get the old Oath of the Moment 1 turn. Which I used it. I used it turn 2, because turn 1, my opponent intentionally did not expose his best unit. The second that he did expose it, called Oath of the Moment on it, and I did successfully kill it in 1 turn. The reroll to wounds was like awesome. I did use one of the enhancements, which was the Iron Resolve on my Terminator Captain. So I gave him a 5-up Field of Pain. It was awesome. He survived it a couple times because of it. Oh, and I actually found that the first company task force actually had some really fun stratagems, which I tried using a few of them during the game, and they were fun. There was, of course, Duty and Honor, which I think is the most useful one, which allows you to sticky an objective, right? So as long as it was controlled by an elite, by a veteran unit, you could sticky it. I used it on my Stern Guard. And so they left the objective and it stayed controlled for the rest of the game. It was pretty awesome. Very cool. Very useful. I really liked it. The other ones that I found were fun were the Orbital Teleportarium. I used that on one of my Terminators. Picked them up in the in my opponent's fight phase and deep struck them in my turn, which was very cool. So that was really cool. I got to move across the board, and it was kind of a decoy unit. It was a lot of fun, so I used that one in the game. It didn't have having the biggest impact, but it was just fun to be mischievous. By that point, I had tons of command points anyway, so it was fun using that stratagem. So overall, I'm 2 games in. I've had a couple games, and I intentionally started with a couple of the detachments that not a lot of people, most people had started off with the assault themed list, right? That's where a lot of people went because that is probably the most competitive list. And I did design a list, but I didn't get to play it with the Stormlance Task Force. I found that one to be the hardest army to design, really, overall, because in this new codex, there's really not a lot of bikes or mounted units, right? Now, with Dark Angels, again, you have the Knights, you have like Samael, cool. But in the core book, you have Chaplain on a bike, Outriders, the Buggy. Not a lot of choices, right? And so I found that one very limiting overall. I do think the strongest one is the Firestorm Assault Force, really just by watching videos and learning the rules. Obviously, the Gladius Task Force, I've already played that one several times, so I didn't really want to try that one out. I think it's just as good as before, of course, minus the big changes, of course, the change to Oath of the Moment. I loved Anvil Siege Force, which was great, and yeah, as I said, Ironstorm Spearhead. It's a very defensive one. I wasn't interested in. I wanted to be more offensive and have some fun that way versus surviving more. I think the Firestorm Assault Force is the strongest, and the Stormlance Task Force is by far the hardest to design because it's the most limiting. All the enhancements go to mounted units, but all you have is Chaplain on a bike. If they added Captain on a bike to it, I think it would have greatly increased it substantially. That's what I'm saying. But that's it. Those are my first thoughts. As I said, they were fun games. I really liked the overall feel of both games. I used some stratagems, but I mostly used rerolls. I did feel that the change to Oath of the Moment really, I felt it. But of course, you can mitigate it with the Anvil Siege Force, which I found that a lot. And of course, you have the once per game, 1 turn for the First Company Task Force. So, cool. What do you think so far? What do you think of the new codex? Have you tried any games? What do you think? You liking it? You not liking it? Do you think it was overnerfed? Do you think it's good? I think it's going to be a fun army. I don't know if it's going to be a top-tier meta-changing army yet. I don't. We got to give it some time. But I just don't feel this is going to be a tournament winner every time. But that's what they're going for. They're going for balance. What do you think? Leave comments in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. It really does help a lot. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting.